Hello, my name is Gina Ragland. We're here today on behalf of AARP Nebraska. Thank you for joining us. It's my pleasure to be here talking with our guest speakers, Nebraska State Senator Anna Wishart and Nick Kastner with the Commonwealth Media. Today, we're talking about social isolation and loneliness and the work that is being done on a project entitled Learning About the Past from Those Who Experienced It. Our first guest, State Senator Anna Wishart, represents District 27 in Lincoln and was elected to the Nebraska legislature in 2016. She serves on the legislature's Appropriations Committee and is vice chair of the State Tribal Relations Committee. In addition to her duties as a state senator, Senator Wishart works as the director of partnerships at Beyond School Bells, a coalition with a mission to improve access to quality after-school and summer programming for Nebraska's youth. Senator Wishart was also the 2018 AARP Nebraska Capital Caregivers Award recipient for her work on assisted living initiatives. I'm also pleased to have with us today Nick Kastner, who is the co-creator of the Commonwealth Media. The Commonwealth started as a podcast and has featured disruptive leaders within organizations like Disney, Project Runway, and the X Games. They have also now expanded into video storytelling by collaborating with Senator Wishart and AARP Nebraska to share stories from seniors across Nebraska. I want to thank everyone that's joining us live on Facebook today, and I'd also like to remind you, if you do have questions throughout the presentation or a comment that you'd like to post, please feel free to type it into the Facebook Live comments section. Much of today's discussion is on a new project to address social isolation and loneliness among Nebraska seniors. With all that has occurred with the COVID-19 pandemic, we know more and more people are at risk for social isolation as a result. Social isolation is a public health risk that affects a significant portion of the older adult population. Strong evidence suggests that many older adults are socially isolated or lonely in ways that puts their health at risk. According to a 2018 AARP survey, we know that there are over 153,000 or 23.4% of Nebraskans age 50 and older who are living alone. That number increases as the age goes up, with over 91,000 or 30.2% of those age 65 and older living alone in Nebraska. The long-term effects of social isolation are very real. Over a prolonged period, the impact is as harmful to an individual as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It is more dangerous to one's health than obesity. It's linked to a greater likelihood of early death, increased cognitive decline, poor cardiovascular function, stroke, anxiety, a weakened immune system, and even depression. We know it's highly likely that seniors living alone will all likely experience increased social isolation and loneliness, especially now as we work to combat the COVID-19 pandemic currently before us. With that being said, welcome again to both of our speakers, Senator Wishart and Nick. We're here to discuss an initiative that I know you're both very passionate about. Senator Wishart, we just discussed some sobering statistics and information as it relates to social isolation and loneliness and how it's affecting seniors in Nebraska. Can you give us a little background on this project and why this initiative is so important to you?
Absolutely, and thank you, Gina and the AARP, for inviting me and Nick on today and for collaborating with us on this project. So, senior isolation is an issue that I have been working on and working with the AARP on for quite a while. And when the pandemic hit and we needed to shut down and shelter in as a state, that was the first population that I was thinking of, especially those who are living in assisted living and nursing home facilities where, to protect their health, they're ending up being isolated at quite an intense level. And so right when the COVID pandemic hit, my office, we called through nursing homes, and I individually called through as many constituents that I represent as possible to check in, see how they're doing. And one phone call I had was with a woman who was in a nursing facility, and we talked for quite a while, talked about the struggles that she had not being able to see her family. Time is of the essence for her. It's important for her to connect as much as possible. And the technology applications that all of us use, Zoom and Facebook and the telephone, a lot of times they're pretty complicated to learn. And even when you do learn them, a lot of times there's still that feeling of isolation. So when I got done with that phone call with her, I thought there has to be a way where creative ways where we can connect sort of the world outside of a nursing home with the world inside, and not just one way. You know, there's a lot of knowledge and history within our nursing homes and assisted living facilities of people who have lived through other challenges. And those stories, I think, are very important for Nebraskans to hear as we're all experiencing a challenge. So I got in touch with my friend Nick, who's just a creative, just an up-and-coming creative filmmaker and podcaster, and thought, Nick, you know, is there a way that we could collaborate and do some films to share the stories of seniors within our nursing facilities, to share them with other Nebraskans across the state and the country?
Wonderful. Thank you, Senator. And which is a nice segue then to introduce you, Nick. This is obviously a very exciting project. And before we dive into those details, can you tell us first about the Commonwealth Media and yourself, and really where is your interest? Why, you know, being a young person in the state, how does this interest in the project touch you the most?
Yeah, well, Gina, first off, I would like to thank you and AARP of Nebraska for inviting me on. This is this is cool. I'm impressed with your use of Facebook Live. It's a neat application. So I started the Commonwealth about a year ago with a buddy. We were drinking beer at Duffy's Tavern downtown Lincoln, and we both discussed the idea for a podcast. And like, as we kind of fleshed it out on a bar napkin, that we wanted to interview local entrepreneurs, artists, and athletes from Lincoln and across the state, and first and foremost, just to learn from them. But as we're having these discussions, we might as well record it and make a podcast out of it. And as we developed the show, it really gave me the chance to explore my intellectual curiosity and see what I could turn it into. It led to a town hall with Senator Wishart. That was our first live event back in November, and how I got acquainted with Senator Wishart. And then from there, I lived in Colorado for a few months over the winter, and I was the first podcaster to get a press pass to the X Games. So it was cool being so close to the like that world renowned event. And then so I spent about a third of my time doing this, and the rest is doing media production. And as the pandemic hit, Senator Wishart called me about the project, and I immediately jumped on board because the pandemic, like so many people across the country and world, it really stalled a lot of the projects I had going on. So I had spare time and was looking for something to do, but I also was curious about contrasting the perspective of living through a current historical event, as is COVID-19, and comparing that with other historical times people have lived through.
Perfect. And you know, when you talk about, and we're going to watch a video, one of the interviews that you've already done later, but Senator Wishart, I'm going to go back to you. And you know, I know you've kind of already talked about and alluded about what you're seeing and hearing from constituents or Nebraskans on this issue, and especially when you're making those phone calls and what's happening with the social distancing requirements and so forth. But really, I know some of the interviews you've done initially are with residents in the Lancaster Manor facility. Really, how did the project start, or what was your intent for the focus of the project on the historical side of things, in reaching not only seniors in assisted living or long-term care facilities, but do you anticipate this going further than that?
Well, so Lancaster Manor was, for me, the first place I wanted to start, because I built a relationship with them. They are a nursing home and assisted living facility within District 27, the district I represent. And actually, I have been doing some window wellness visits. In my spare time, I have a horse, and I do a lot of horseback riding. And a group of us from our barn we've been taking our horses to nursing home facilities and doing window wellness visits. And one of the things that occurred to me is that, that is great for us to connect the outside world within, but kind of like what what Nick had alluded to, there's so much knowledge and wisdom from the people that live within these nursing home facilities that is actually very important to be shared now, because they have lived through other national and global challenges, and they have some wisdom that they can bring, and some insight that will be helpful to all of us. And so when Nick and I talked about this, we're piloting it. We want this to be the ability to share Nebraska stories. We're hoping, though, those Nebraska stories resonate with people across the country, and that this is something, the seniors that live here and have something to say, that people, regardless of where they live, are able to tune in and listen to that.
Right. So not only sharing it within the state, but even you anticipate this would probably even could go nationally, and people over the world could listen to the podcast if enough people get the word out and do it. So Nick, the topic or the project's titled "Learning about the Past from Those That Experienced It." We've really already started talking about that historical perspective, but I'm wondering if you can tell us about your programming and really, again, centering around some of those residents that you've already done some of the interviews with. What are some of the topics, or what are you hearing from those that want to be interviewed?
Yes, yeah. So normally, and the structure of the interview from my end, I normally meet with the senior over Zoom for about like 5 to 10 minutes and just kind of get a brief history of of general topics they want to discuss, and then a few days later, I go in and have a longer interview with them, and depending on the historical event that we focus on, I guess I just kind of go in and ask what their perspective is on that event. And so, for example, we talked to someone who volunteered in the Vietnam draft, and the clip we're about to show you is a woman who started dating her husband right as World War II broke out, and he was drafted into the Navy. And then today we talked with a farm kid in the 40s who lived through one of the greatest blizzards in American history. So it changes the interview does change a fair amount based on the topic we're covering, but here is the video on our World War II discussion. Welcome to the Commonwealth's YouTube channel, where we're learning about the past from our community members who experienced it. There's been a lot of talk recently about how dating has changed during COVID-19. Well, we're going to roll it back to World War II to hear what dating was like during that time. Marilyn Ackram was working at the Elgin watch factory right as World War II was breaking out, when she moved in with a friend and co-worker.
My girlfriend and her boyfriend did. So I guess we just went out and had fun and spent the evenings.
They eventually added in a fourth friend from the watch factory named Roy. Soon, they all started going out on double dates.
We got close to be close friends, and spend time together. We started going places, just, I would say taverns rather than beer joints. But that's basically what it amounted to. I remember we were in the south part of Lincoln.
The one issue?
I knew that he was going to be drafted, yes.
As someone in that age group who would have been drafted, it's tough to imagine what it would be like to receive that letter.
I don't think he really wanted to go or have to go, but he knew it was a notification and he had to, so he just took it. That was it.
Yeah. When asked what she thought about it, Marilyn said,
well, I didn't like it because I knew that he'd be out at sea a lot and I wouldn't see him for long periods of time. And so it was kind of sad. Mm-hmm. That's the best way I can explain it.
Today, people are having dates virtually. During World War II, contact looked a little bit different.
We wrote all the time, kept, very close contact that way and writing letters back and forth. Yeah. I had them for a long time till I got married and my husband got rid of them. Oh. He didn't want me to have them to look at anymore.
How often would you write back and forth?
Oh, daily. We both did.
Wow.
So we always have a letter coming back and forth to each other.
Okay.
Of course, his sometimes took a little longer to get to me, but that's about the best I can really recall, and that's been a long time ago.
While they were writing back and forth every day, America was in one of the biggest fights the world had ever seen. Marilyn occupied herself by going to work and spending time with her coworkers and roommate.
Could you follow the war very closely while your husband was away?
Oh, there was no way to miss it. I mean, you had to be aware of it. And of course, I didn't like it. I was hoping, that it would end soon and we'd be back to what was normal for us. So
Wanting things to return to normal sounds very, very familiar. When asked how long it took for things to go back to normal after World War II, Marilyn said,
"Oh, it took a while because we lived differently for a while apart, So it took a while to where we felt like we were able to go back to what was normal for us." So
Roy returned from war and married Marilyn. Here's a picture of them from their wedding day. We're going to leave this up for a few more seconds because we couldn't stop staring at it when we first saw it. When asked what made her the most happy throughout her life, Marilyn said,
"Oh my goodness sakes. Well, I was getting married and raising a family. I had a daughter, and then I had twin daughters, and then I had a son. We did." And so it was a normal life, but, it was just a different form of life in a way. I had to be a mother and be doing things with them. And so that's about the best way I can explain it to you.
Marilyn's nursing home is currently in extreme isolation due to COVID-19. If you would like to send her a note, leave a message in the comment section. We'll compile a list of all of them and send them over to Marilyn. Like always, hit subscribe and the thumbs up button to support our channel. Text the word common to 31996 to get notified when new episodes drop.
What kind of things did you and your husband like to do when you first started dating?
Yeah.
Oh, drink beer. That's all we did.
Nick, that is so awesome. And truly, I don't know if anyone can say if when they don't watch that it doesn't make them smile. And especially those that maybe can associate more with the stories, whereas some of us that never lived through that time, there's nothing more golden than learning from an elder and listening to their storytelling and so forth. So again, for those of you that are viewing, that is one example of one of the interviews that's been done by Nick through the Commonwealth Media. Again, we'll be popping up a slide at the end of how you can subscribe to that YouTube channel. Again, I think that's the other point of what we're doing today. We're launching this project with the help of Senator Wishart and Nick Kastner with the Commonwealth Media. And really the intent there is not only are we looking for people who might be willing to go on video and tell their story, but also those of you out in the community that may have listened or have an influence and can share those with others across the state and even further on beyond that. So Nick, we just talked about, again, an example, or we showed an example of a resident telling her story, and again, it made me smile. But if someone is interested in being part of these interviews and telling their story, who do they contact, or how do they reach out, or, what's the process that you're looking that can make this a smooth transition?
Yes, yeah. If you could interview me, if you could email me at nick@thecommonwealthmedia.com. And if you gave your name and just like a quick bio on what you would like to talk about, that's helpful. And then I'll reach out to you, either schedule a call or a meeting over Zoom.
Perfect. And as far as accessing the videos, we've kind of talked about that again, but would you take a few moments again to maybe give that directive again of how does someone access the videos? How do they find them? Most importantly, I think with YouTube, do you have to be a subscriber? Can anyone watch them? Can you give some more information about following that and finding those?
Yes, yeah. So YouTube makes it the easiest to build a community around videos. So that's why we're hosting them on YouTube. You do not need an account to watch. To subscribe and comment and kind of interact with other people watching the video, you do need a Google account. But if you just want to watch it, there is no account, and a Google account is free. And then I think either Emily or I can drop a link to all of the videos in the comments.
Perfect. And again, so the intent today, we're launching the project. The brains behind this was State Senator Anna Wishart. Nick came on board with the media side of things and pulled it together. Quite fascinating. Nick, how many episodes have you done so far?
We have done 4, and we're going to release a new one every week for the next 6 or 7 weeks. For sure.
Over the course of the summer, if not more. So something for people to look forward to on a weekly basis of what's the next story that's being told. I think the other message I want people to understand and know is this is not just stories from long-term care or assisted living residents or retirement facilities. This can be anyone that has a historical perspective or a story. I would say sky's the limit, that nothing is out of the question as far as what those stories are. Senator Wishart, you're shaking your head, and I would be interested too if you have other thoughts on that from being your project, the historical perspective, but do you envision any other stories or results coming out of this?
Yeah, so, while we focused originally on nursing homes and long-term care facilities just because of the level of isolation they're experiencing, there's a wealth of wisdom across the state from seniors who are living in our community. And so anybody who knows someone who has a great story to tell that's very uplifting and can help, again, give some advice and some inspiration to people as we're going through this challenging period, we welcome that. One of the takeaways that I have from that video with Marilyn is I started writing more letters. That's something that right now is a great way for us to be able to communicate. It worked back then. They got married. And so it's obviously a really good way to communicate with people, especially those who you're just not able to see in person right now. So again, that video inspired me and helped me get through some of the communication barriers I've been experiencing. And so I'm hopeful that more and more of these videos will help. The one other thing, Gina, I wanted to say is I know the AARP has been really leaning into developing intergenerational connections that are very critical to sort of the fabric of community. And what I love seeing is someone like Nick, who's young and able to sit down and interview and connect with some of our senior population. And so I think this is, again, a testament to the importance of intergenerational connections in our state.
I so appreciate that comment, and that is so true. And again, it kind of goes back to the fact that I think every time we talk intergenerationally, every generation can learn from the other, regardless of who they're representing. And it's joyful, and it brings so much value to every conversation. And who doesn't want to learn something from someone else? Before we start wrapping this up, Senator Wishart, I just want to throw it back to you. And do you have any recommendations for those watching today? And this gets more in the more serious side, but those that are looking for ways to help those who might be affected by isolation or loneliness in their communities. We're talking about the podcast today, but what other suggestions might you have for others that maybe are watching and really want to be as part of that intergenerational or just reaching out and helping? Do you have any thoughts or comments for people of where they could find some ways to help?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I would recommend reaching out to your state AARP and seeing what projects they're working on. I know there's a lot. I'd also recommend reaching out to your local public health department to see where the need is. And then the other thing that I've individually been doing and have been encouraging others to is connect with your local nursing long-term care facilities and see what you can do in terms of window wellness visits. See what are some safe ways where you can connect with the seniors there, whether it is writing them letters and communicating that way, or whether it's scheduling a time where you, in a safe social distancing way, can show up and volunteer and help bring a smile to somebody's face.
Absolutely. Great advice, as always, from you, Senator. As we close off our programming here this afternoon, there is one thing we also want to mention from the AARP side of things. Senator Wishart mentioned that AARP is working actively on this topic and issue. And I wanted to draw your attention to our Community Connections website that we have recently launched. As an addition to the program today, again, this program that we launched is connecting people in the communities through mutual aid. This Community Connections is a new online platform which allows users to organize and find local volunteer groups who can assist with things like picking up groceries, providing financial assistance, lending emotional support to neighbors, friends, loved ones, and again, even people that maybe they don't even know. Across the country, so this is not just a Nebraska-specific initiative, but these informal mutual aid groups do help communities stay connected at a time when people must practice safe distancing and staying safe. So the site includes multiple resources, and I'm pleased to say in English and Spanish, and it does help those who are feeling isolated, depressed, overwhelmed, or anxious. And really the intent here is to, again, connect people with a friendly voice, someone that can call them and talk to them, and maybe it's just a simple, just checking in and how they're doing, or maybe it's taking it a step further and finding resources for them. This request for a friendly call is easy to do. It can be made through an online form, and again, we'll have that information pop up on the screen here shortly. Or you can also call toll-free 888-281-0145. The link to the website is lengthy, so we'll put it up on the slides. And there will also be information in the chat, and as well as in follow-up, we'll have information on that as well. So in closing, I want to thank you, Senator Wishart, and Nick, you for being here with us today. We appreciate so much your time, and most importantly, appreciate your efforts to assist seniors across Nebraska in addressing social isolation and loneliness. Before we close off, do either of you have any final closing comments or thoughts you'd like to give?
Just hoping that you all tune in and watch Nick's interviews, and again, really think about other seniors in our community in Nebraska who have great stories, uplifting stories to tell, and make sure you get them in touch with Nick.
Nick, anything you want to share?
Yeah, so I guess I've already learned a lot making these videos. So I hope they resonate with you, and let me know. I do look at the YouTube comments, and please shoot us a message. And yeah, we love the feedback. So let us know what you think.
Perfect. Thank you to both of you. Just a reminder, the learning about the past from those that experienced it, the project we talked about today is launching this week. Please take the time to watch the interviews, subscribe and like the YouTube page, and watch for future episodes being launched throughout the rest of the summer. If you do have a story to tell and you're interested in being interviewed, or you know of someone who might be willing to tell a story and be interviewed, please stay tuned for the closing slide with important information on how to reach out and contact Nick Kastner again with the Commonwealth Media. Up there, the one thing that's clear in this pandemic, its personal connections are immensely valuable and sorely missed. So our intent here is to resolve to keep those links strong and vibrant during the crisis, especially for our most vulnerable family, friends, and neighbors. Thank you all for joining us today. Again, a special thanks to Senator Wishart and Nick for joining us and for all that you're doing on this project. I want to wish everyone be safe and be well.